Hello, and welcome to another episode of Casting Views, the podcast that takes a topic each week and, as the name suggests, casts views. This week, I've got a familiar voice to the show. I've got the mellifluous voiced movie man, the raucous reviewer of films, and the most sleep deprived man for his art that I know of. It's Justin Henson of the Movie Wire. Hi, Justin.
Hello, Dan. I love your nicknames every time I come onto the show. I really just want to steal them. They're amazing. Thank you for having me. It's always a fun time.
I think you're my lucky charm in the sense of the two episodes I've had you on for. So it was the Unusual Sports Part 2 and the Urban Legends. Those are firmly lodged in my top 10 with actually the sport one, the Unusual Sports number 3. So, no,
Wow.
thank you. So, what you don't know is basically you've now signed up to be my regular recurring guest.
So that works for me because, like we were just talking about, it's an excuse for me to grab a beer at noon and just have some great conversation. So the beer must be the good luck charm. I'll just say it.
For those listening, Justin joined with a drink, and I asked jokingly if that was a beer, and he said yes. I mean, I guess it's midday over there, but you're really embracing the international time zone, I think, aren't you? Yeah.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, Dan.
Well, it's 8 o'clock here, so enjoy. Have one for me.
So do you want me to grab another one?
Yeah, go on.
Okay,
And here I am with my water. I've got strawberry flavored water. Rock and roll
rebel.
lifestyle. rock and roll. So I'm going to keep this episode going as long as we can to see how many beers Justin gets through. So, but good week so far?
Yeah. I mean, it's been crazy week. I mean, lots of movies this week. The last couple of weeks have been just kind of strenuous. Usually, beginning of the year, I was lucky to get maybe one or two out of the theater. Now we have like 3 to 5 coming out. So right now I give high fives to the box office guy as I pass through. So I think I see him more than I see my family this week. So it's been a pretty busy
facial
week.
recognition just opens the door. Yeah, it's Justin's here. Let him in.
Yep, I got my own concierge. So
Is
I
it
mean, it's yeah.
the usual, Mr. Henderson? The usual seat?
I do have my normal seat that I go to, and I have it planned out in each theater. So
Nice. Well, this goes out in a few weeks from when we record. So any sneak peeks or anything you can divulge?
we just got back from an advance screening of The Flash. So I mean, depending on when this episode comes out, might come right in line to the full release.
Okay. All right. Well, after we stop recording, I'll get you to tell me yay or nay. So, I've had an interesting week in the sense of I mentioned it on the pod actually when it happened, but back in February, I twisted my ankle because, being the sporty type I am, well, I'm not. The most activity I do is walking. I was going for a walk at lunch, twisted my ankle quite badly, but carried on. But 3 months later, my ankle's still swelling up and is in pain. So I thought, you know what? Let's just go get it checked. Yeah, it turns out I suffered what is called an avulsion fracture, which is where the ligament pulls a bit of the bone away from the ankle. So, yeah, that was a
Oh,
turn up for the books this week. So I think it's just a case of just getting over it in another few months. But yeah, I've got a scan in a couple of days to find out. So it just keeps reinforcing because there's been a history of illness and injuries on this show. So yeah, just watch out when you're walking.
so are you in like a brace, a cast, or
No. It's not as bad as it sounds. It's
no?
just a small amount, but it's enough to keep the ankle irritated. So no, it won't be anything like that. But it's yeah, it was just interesting because I was expecting him to say, no, you're absolutely fine. Get over it. And he's like, no. He goes, yeah, you've suffered a chipped bone. So yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
But I didn't get you here to talk about my ankle injury. But you know what? Before we do get into the show, let's hear from our good friend Antonio from the Cultworthy.
The Cult-Worthy Podcast. Join me, Antonio Palacios, each week as I guide you through a never-ending sea of obscure cinema and cult-worthy gems that deserve a rediscovery. Find me on all listening platforms and at thecultworthy.com. The Cult-Worthy Podcast. Join us.
Last time you came on the show, you brought some fun stuff to the proceeding, and I'm actually quite worried about this episode from what you've said to me. So I think I gave you a few ideas, and you jumped onto this one. And looking back, you jumped on it quite eagerly, and it was about amazing facts. You were messaging me, and yeah, I was getting quite worried. So I've either got a hell of a lot of editing to do, or this is going to be a blank week for me. So
Dan, I know you're very defensive on your show, so I I promise I will behave this go around.
Oh, well,
Maybe.
that's not what we had you on for. That was gonna say, that's not what we had you on for. No, seriously, if you're wondering where I'm coming from, go listen back to the Unusual Sports Part 2 with Justin. As always, I like to say, guests go first, so hit me with your first fact.
Okay. Well, we'll kick it off a little mild here. So I'm going to take one from the States here. So, first unique fact. So, we all know who Buzz Aldrin is, correct? Yes. So,
Yep,
the
yep.
first man on the moon. Did you know he was the first one to pee on the moon?
Huh, huh. Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but I'd never heard that before. No.
So, well, it's again, they have built in like, what do you call them? Like pee pouches in their spacesuits, right? So,
Yeah.
apparently, his broke. So he had to pee his suit. Now, this one I'm starting off mild because I found this one interesting. Like, nobody on that shuttle is going to know, they can't smell anything. The one thing I found interesting on this, and I can picture what I would do in this situation. You can literally take a dump in that suit and nobody will know until you actually land and take off those helmets. And that would be having space shit come down to Earth and you take off your helmet and just be yell out a huge surprise where everybody's confined in this space shuttle just with this rancid space crap in your pants. I think that would be a memorable story for me. I think that one I found not necessarily interesting, but the gears were turning in my head of how to take advantage of this funny situation.
The 7 minutes in, and we've had the phrase "space shit." Well, excellent. So you're saying that because he was the first man on there, even though it was in his suit, he's technically
It
the
was on the
first
moon.
person to. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's some record. I mean, you probably understand. It's probably the sort of thing that he says a lot. You remember, he would have said it in his personal with his mates and at home. It would have been the first thing he said. Yeah, yes. Forget about being the first on the moon. I was the first to pee on the moon.
Well, we had two separate stories. One to tell all the sober people, I was the first one on the moon. And then you're at the bar, hey, I was the first one to piss myself on the moon. So there was two separate stories going on here. If it was me, I would have been probably the first one to like either shit myself or piss myself right from takeoff. I mean, that is an intimidating piece of information when you actually go into space and you actually have this for the first time. I'm surprised we didn't have more stories like that of astronauts pissing themselves.
I was going to say there'd be nothing left in me for the rest of the trip after that takeoff experience. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, you talk about these brave men. I mean, that's nothing. If they're pissing themselves on the moon, I mean, more power to them. I would have done it way before that.
I was thinking you were going to go that he literally got it out and took a tinkle on the moon, but then with the lack of gravity, you can't really write your name, I guess, in the dust.
That's something I would do, but that would be my first goal. It's not to step foot on the moon. It's just I wouldn't be that one guy just pissing on the moon.
Yeah,
So that would have been
yeah.
that would have been cool. They need to have a design spacesuit just for that.
There's probably, that footage. There's probably a bit cut out before. It's one small step. Oh, Buzz, put it away. Take two.
There he goes again.
We told you back on Earth, no.
You can totally tell which one is Buzz's suit because it's the only one with the zipper in the crotch.
And I think, Justin, you've ruled yourself out of ever getting a NASA scholarship and going up, or a NASA training, sorry.
There goes the dream. I have to rely on, I guess, Bezos at this point.
Right, that's a good start. I mean, like I said, if that's mild, we'll see where this goes. I'm going to go with, and this is something people have probably heard, and I know I've heard it before, but it's one of those things that even though logically I know why the fact is mind blowing, I still can't understand how it can be. And I like to think of myself as a fairly logical, intelligent person, but stuff like this still blows my mind. Anyway, in a standard deck of playing cards, a 52 deck pack of cards, the chances of you, and if you shuffle them properly, the chances of you ever shuffling the same deck twice is infinitely small. And the chance of you shuffling the same outcome of cards as anyone else on the earth is also infinitely small. Just to put it into numbers, the actual possibility or combination of cards is an 8 with 67 zeros after it.
Wow.
Just to finish off, so basically, what I found here was it says if you were to make friends with every person on Earth and each person shuffles one deck of cards each second for the age of the universe, there will be a 1 in a trillion, trillion, trillion chance of two decks matching.
Wow, that's interesting. So I spent all that time buying those card counting books, and I thought I would be able to do it. And you just threw a bunch of numbers at me that just intimidated the hell out of me.
Do you see what I mean about saying that logically, because of maths, blah, de, blah, de, blah, I get why it's that small, but you think you're shuffling a deck of cards. It's just this, the deck of cards is small in your hand. So you'd think, no, it can't be impossible. I think they say if you and I had to say shuffle it properly because they say if you buy a brand new deck of cards, sometimes they're quite difficult to shuffle, and if you don't shuffle them properly, then you can absolutely get the same because they're all in the same order, and you can easily do it the same twice. But that's why I said you got to do a proper shuffle. Yeah, and so the fact is, every time you've ever shuffled a deck of cards, every time I've ever shuffled a deck of cards, how many times can I say shuffled a deck of cards in the space of 30 seconds? They will never have been the same. I just think that's amazing and will never be for the rest of your life.
Wow, that's kind of crazy to me. It almost makes me not want to do any shuffling and just because I'm a horrible shuffler, so I'll just like move the cards around. So I mean, I guess it just proves all those fancy shuffling tricks doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Knowing me, I'm probably the one person that would keep shuffling them the same. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna be that exception that proves the rule. I think on this one.
That one was good. I like that one.
Right, where are you taking us now?
Oh man, I have so many to pick from here, Dan. I'm trying to see what. So okay, I'll stay tame. I'll stay tame on this one. So, did you know, Dan, drinking too much water can be deadly? So, when guzzling a lot of liquid, you can suffer from water intoxication, which occurs after an obscene amount of water is consumed, often during endurance events when participants are losing sodium through their sweat. There have been many notable cases, including 2002 Boston Marathon competitor. I'm not even going to attempt her name. But out of respect, I'll attempt actually. Cynthia Lacero, who died from overhydration.
Wow.
So, in your life, have you ever experienced this?
No, I mean the problem I have is I should be drinking more water, but obviously people at home you can't be seeing what I'm doing. But I'm putting the lid back on my bottle of water now.
I was going to say, I'm watching you like a hawk right now, Dan. I see that bottle of water. And it's funny because at work or even at home with my wife, I'm always told the same thing is I don't drink enough water. And, I don't. But, in this scenario, it's like one of those where, you know what, I think I will have the last laugh here. So everybody's bringing those canteens, those thermoses. And, you know what, I'm sitting here with my beer. And you know what, I'm going to be the right one in this scenario.
Maybe that's what Buzz Aldrin was doing on the moon.
It's a survival technique.
But sorry, can you say that again in terms of what is the problem? Is it the amount of sodium? Did you say that's
Yep.
sweated?
So it's a amount of sodium that they lose through their sweat. So the more, from what I'm gathering from this, the more you
Right,
drink, the more the body has to process, and the more you're staying
right.
active. Yeah.
Okay, because that's what I was. Yeah, what threw me was the fact that a marathon runner. I thought you need to be taking on plenty of fluid, right? I would have thought, but I guess too much.
Well, you're safe, Dan, because you can't run right now. I mean, you're completely safe.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm not running right now. Yeah.
Well, I just found that interesting. I have never heard of that, and now it almost makes me paranoid to even drink water, even though I know this is like a far-fetched scenario where very uncommon. But I don't know. I think it got into my psyche at this point that yeah, I'm good. I don't need to drink water.
I think, do you know what? The only reason I think I knew about it was because I've been told in the past that I need to drink more. So I've looked it up. Like we always say, you fall down the internet rabbit hole and it leads you to finding that story. And I'm like, look, I told you I shouldn't be drinking more water. I told you. It's that one article that you found on a tabloid headline or something that you're using as evidence.
Well, it's like you Google search how much water should I drink? It brings up WebMD, and it's like all of a sudden you have cancer. So you go down that rabbit hole of should I drink more water? You never get your answer. You just go
Yeah.
on these ailments that you have. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. A total rabbit hole.
Well, my next one is actually going to stay on the. This is where I have the argument with myself. It's not depressing. However, the headline will make it sound so. It's that the hottest chili pepper in the world is so hot it could kill you. Now,
Huh.
are you actually? I'll be careful how I phrase this, but are you a spicy man in the sense of do you like
Oh, Dan,
your
I'm
heat?
so spicy.
I know I've seen you in the group chats. Are you a chili person? Do you like your heat, your spice in your food?
Honestly, I put spice on everything. It drives my family crazy. So anything that's cooked, I have to put hot sauce, chili flakes, everything. I love my food spicy.
Yes, same here. So I will always, I mean, over the years, as I've got older, the acid reflux isn't helping so much with that. But no, I've always liked it. And what I will do is if I'm out, so ultimately, if I'm paying for food, I won't go for the spiciest food because I want to eat and enjoy it. But at home, I'll throw a bit more. And at the moment, just before I go into the actual stat here, there's a fast food chain here in the UK called Nando's, which is chicken. It does chicken, and it's famous for its sauce. It's peri peri sauce. Now it goes from no heat to low, medium, mild, whatever, extra hot. And now they actually sell it here in the supermarkets. So I like to buy bottles of that, and I just like to add it to my meal. And not because the food isn't tasty, but I just like it's. I like to have that sauce. So any food that gives me the opportunity to chuck it on. But this bottle I've got, when was it? Yesterday, it's kind of coming out the bottle quite fast. So I went to tip it on and literally a whole
Oh
load
no.
came out. And I'm like, well, I have to eat this now. And yeah, the sweat was unreal. But staying on track here, and it's funny because I found this fact and then I checked it and it'd actually been superseded. But if I say originally how it was, there was a chili called the Dragon's Breath chili, and they're saying it's so hot, it's actually deadly. If you ate one, it could cause an anaphylactic shock, burn your airways, and close them up. Um, and you think, why was it created? It was actually used to be used in medical treatments as an anesthetic to numb skin. But then what I did, I just checked it. I went to check it out. Currently, the officially recognized hottest chili is the Carolina Reaper at 1.641 million Scoville units. Now, the Dragon's Breath hasn't officially been tested, I think, but that comes in at 2.48 million. However, there's one called Pepper X. So that says, oh, that's 3.18 million. So what's that? That's it's literally just under twice the Carolina Reaper.
You see, I would try it. Well, it's funny because you look at those hot sauce bottles, you look at uh, the scale of them, and I'll usually go to the peak of it, and I'll usually say after said and done, it wasn't too bad. But this one would interest me on trying that. But again, what made me nervous was the fact that it used to treat medical ailments over the skin, and ingesting that makes me a little
Yeah.
nervous on putting that in my body. But I would totally give that a shot. I would just be nervous also about the aftermath in the bathroom.
Okay, next week on Casting Views, we have just no, just two things on chilies, right? So when I could tolerate them more, I used to love eating the chilies, and I would buy them. What I would do is, if we were having a steak at home, I would get a couple of chilies, chop them up, place them on top of the steak, rub it over, get that heat into it. Then there was one. So is it the ghost chili?
Ghost pepper.
Possibly, I can't remember it, but they I found it on one trip to our supermarket. I found it, so it was in a pack of three, and we got them. And I was chopping them up. My wife, my girlfriend at the time, said, "Dan, do you want to try it first, just before you chuck it into this?" And I thought, no. No, no, don't
You
be silly. And
got
then I
it.
thought, no, do you know what? She's often really spot on with all these suggestions. So I just touched the knife I was cutting it with to my tongue. I didn't put them in my food at all. I turned red. I was sweating. That was it. I said, yeah, no, that's going nowhere near my food. So
Well, it's almost like self-torture. You know it's gonna burn, you know it's hot, and yet we still put it. And it doesn't really add anything. When you get up to the really hot peppers, it doesn't really add a ton of flavor. It's just honestly painful. But it is one of those things that if you're a spicy guy, you still do it because it makes that meal almost like an event where
Yes.
it's or a challenge. You're like, I don't care about the flavor. Let me just see if I can do it.
You ever been tempted to go into one of these chili eating contests?
Yes. So over here we do have a fair that once in a while, it's never consistent, but once in a while they will do chili, and I've attempted a couple of the chilies, and they are so mild. You'll go to that one chili that says it's the
Uh-huh.
hottest one here. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
shut up. It is not. So I think when it comes to serving people, even in restaurants here, there's a lot of warnings and a lot of liability. And I get that a lot of those chili competitions don't want to have the one tasting their chili faint in pain because
Yeah.
they're not going to win. So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's one of those that you have to be very cautious. And I'm sure it was the hottest one there, but it wasn't hot.
The last thing I'll say before handing it back over to you is on UK Netflix. Well, it was on UK Netflix. There was a series called something like We Are the Champions, and each episode was around about random events. So we had the cheese rolling that I featured on this show. But I think the first episode was a chili eating contest. And it's just amazing just to see them with what they put through. I mean, I do like my heat. I just want to know what that's doing to your insides when you're eating that many one after the other. Anyway, that's yeah, I'll leave it there.
You'll know 10, 20 years down the road, Dan. The damage is down the road.
Yeah, well, I was thinking you'll know it's sort of probably in 6 to 8 hours time after that. Basically, so, yeah. Mo- mo- moving on.
God, I can spin off on. I'm trying to pick two. I got two that can spin off perfectly from this topic.
Do both.
So,
Do both. Do both.
oh no, I got to separate these two. All right. So, well, Dan, speaking of hot, did you know? I can see you're getting nervous. I can tell in the face. You're more likely to get a computer virus from visiting religious sites than porn sites.
There is no right answer to what you just said there, I think,
Dan, I set this question up for you to answer it.
because if I say few, then that means I'm visiting pornographic sites. Yeah. So I'm going to say, that's interesting. Tell me more, Justin.
So, according to some research that from numerous sites, I won't go over all of them, but
Sorry,
here's the
quotes, research.
recent sites, and this wasn't an independent research, so I am virus free here. Wait, I just entrapped myself, Dan. Anyway, so there was about 150 studies, and I don't know what sparked this sort of research on comparing religious sites to porn sites. I think they were just Googly searching, like we said earlier, and came up with a bunch of stuff on Christianity that they shouldn't have. But the main reason for this is because porn sites rely on revenue. They rely on these ads. They rely on people going back to their sites, whereas religious sites are usually profit free. It's there for resources. It's there for churchgoers, right? So these are the most targeted attacked sites because they know they get the traffic, and they're not really having a lot of security basis to it. So,
Wow.
so I guess the lesson, if I were to say a lesson from this, Dan, would when you need to get on your knees, you go out in public. And when you want to see somebody else on their knees, you stay home. That's the lesson I got from my research today, Dan.
I don't want to know your research, and I definitely don't want to see your browser history. I because I've always been told and always read on informative news outlet stories, yeah, that porn sites were always going to be the ones that were the most malicious and target, and I'm sure there are, but yeah, I guess nobody would ever think of a religious site, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, usually I think the main basis of everybody's mindset is these porn sites because they, not that I go, I mean, married man,
Of
no,
course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
but you have credit card informations, you have the temptation, you have all these advertisers. It just looks malicious. So you put the two side by side. When it comes to design and sketchiness, a porn site is going to be that sinful kind of design of a website versus the most simplistic, simple website you go to when you want to learn the prayer of the week or the verse of the week. Who knows? So to me, it makes sense. But I don't know. I think that's more for people out there, or trolls out there, just having fun, just saying that, you know what, they did it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I found that interesting.
I just want to say that Casting Views in no way advocates after this that you go out and view multiple pornographic sites because we are saying it's safe. Allegedly, I think, or on Justin's research, and most of you might not know what that might entail, but I think I've got an idea. So, yeah, we're not advocating to go out and start, looking at pornographic sites. Or I
Yeah.
don't know, or are you? Is that what you're saying?
No, no, my prayers go out to whoever visits either website.
Oh dear, that is actually, that is one of those ones where I'm sitting here and I'm literally scratching my head. I literally because I think that's it's quite astonishing. I'm going to use that. I was going to say I'm going to use that
Wait,
on
what are you
people,
going
but
to
I mean
use?
the stat, but
Oh, yeah.
only after this episode has aired.
Put the
Right,
lotion away,
so,
Dan.
oh, the webcam's gone off. Right, so my next one. What is it about you? What is it with you? What is it? Right. My next one, I'm gonna see. After that, this sounds wrong. I'm gonna need the demonstration because I won't be able to say it. But I found the longest place name on Earth is a place in New Zealand, and it's got 85 letters in its name. Now, I'm not going to attempt it. I found a video where someone says it, and I'll try play it shortly. It's basically, it holds the record for being the longest place name on the entire planet of 85 characters. This 1,000-foot hill on the North Island of New Zealand is named after Tamatea, who was a legendary Maori explorer who traversed across the vast lands of New Zealand. To honour his exploits, the Maori people named a hill after him, and show their true adoration, they used an entire sentence. The 85-character name literally translates to the summit where Tamatea, the man with the big knees, the slider, climber of mountains, the land swallower who travelled about, played his nose flute to his loved one. However, hold on, Justin. Even though it's 85 letters long, it's actually got a longer version of it. It's a less commonly used one. And there are many other versions of the name that are less commonly used. And again, I won't pronounce it, but one has 105 letters, and this literally translates to the hill of the nose flute playing by Tamatea, who was blown hither from afar, had a split penis, grazed his knees climbing mountains, fell on the earth, and encircled the land to his beloved. Let me just, if I can find, I'll tell you what, you give me your comment while I find a video again.
I don't know where to start. All right. So, first of all, I thought it was kind of a running joke of a description because of how many times you said long, blowing. And I'm like, where is this going? This is some drunk guy that named this that's just messing with us. And then you go off to the nice climax of the crescendo where you actually mention penis. I'm like, this is the biggest tease when it comes to a name sexually. I want you to do it
Only
again, only slowly.
what the explanation of
You know,
the longer name.
You know what? We can do
So
that after the show. But I want like a I want like a Morgan Freeman read of your description.
the 105 letter version translates to the hill of the nose flute playing by Tamatea, who was blown hither from afar, had a split penis, grazed his knees climbing mountains, fell on the earth, and encircled the land to his beloved. Now, I hope this comes through, but I did find a video of it because I think it's not fair of me just to say it, but here is the name.
Au matawhakatangi hanga ko au au o tamate atu ripu kakapuki maunga horo nuku pokai whenua ki tanaka. Let's try this again. One important thing to have in mind that most people get wrong is that WH in Maori sounds like F, the sound of the letter F. Most people get this wrong, but that's how to say it. Let's try this again. Au matawhakatangi hanga ko au au o tamate atu ripu kakapuki maunga horo nuku pokai whenua ki tanaka.
So that's it. So the thing that stands out for me on this is, how do you even remember that? I mean, I guess because it is a sentence, and if it's converted into Maori, but as a non-Maori, how would you be able to remember that? And you know, not being funny about that because it is 85 characters long. It's amazing, really, isn't it?
For the guy to even say that flawlessly, that's probably a year-long training in front of the mirror trying to get this word out. When you played it, I'm actually impressed. But at the same time, I still think he was messing with us because he really emphasized the words fucking booty.
And sorry, just before we go over to you, because I always knew there's one growing up in the UK, there's one in Wales, which has got a fairly long name, but I think it's only something like 35. I'm just going to play another short clip.
Any more passengers for Llanfairpwll Gwyngyth, Go Gerrit, Llwyn Trobit, Llantysilio, go, go, go.
You know, hats off to these people that say it.
I think that's just a random guy in the bar, like yelling at the bouncer after getting kicked out.
Do you know, the problem is I want to tweet these out with the episode, but I'm not going to have a character limit. So, but sorry. Anyway, yeah. So I give you the longest place name on the planet is 85 letters or 105 letters, depending on which version you use.
Now, before we get into the other one, I mean, this one just reminded me of another long word. It's a German word, and bear with me, I'm trying to remember it. You may have heard of this one, but it's a super long word, and if I can say this right, I'll be amazed. But it's Swankerschaffer Huntdungsmittel.
Never heard of that.
So what it means is contraceptive in German. So meaning during sex, by the time, if you can finish it during sex, that means it's too late.
I was going to say by the time you've said that word, yeah. But anyway, moving swiftly on.
So getting into that. So Dan.
Excuse me.
So Dan, did you know sitting in chairs can arouse women?
No, I did not know.
Now you do, my friend. So yes, sitting in chairs can arouse women. Nerves underneath the buttocks and sitting bones feed arousal tissue in the vagina, clitoris, anus, etc. Sitting in certain kinds of chairs, pressing onto pudendal nerves in a certain way can lead to sexual arousal.
Wow, so just literally just sitting.
Just sitting. So you know how I know my wife gets after me on this, is whenever we go to a restaurant or go to a place, you see the gentleman opening up the car door for the girl. You see him pull out the chair for the girl. You now know this guy has an ulterior motive. It almost makes you question, okay, so he's pulling out the chair for the girl, and now he's opening up the goddamn car door. This guy has nothing good going about him. You know what's happening here. So that might almost be an origin story by itself on the behaviors of pulling out these gentleman behaviors.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not sure what to say on this one.
So Dan, are you a gentleman?
I like to think that I am a gentleman, yes.
You sick bastard.
I don't know what's right anymore. The last 60 seconds has turned my world upside down.
Well, it's funny. If I'm thinking back, I'm like, all right, so this must be a special case. But now, after reading that, I'm going to be looking around in public places. I'm just watching that one girl that just sits down and goes, ooh. Like, to me, I think this one is again, it's an interesting fact, but I think a lot of things contribute to it. It's going to be the way you sit, the type of person, the type of chair. I mean, I gave a basic definition to it, but there has to be more to it. But if I went into what makes it make sense, it wouldn't be funny.
Right. Well, from this point on, this is where all mine are going to be really boring, and people are going to say, when's Justin's next fact now? Following on from that. So I'm just going to say I've got a really short one. I've got a really short one. Sorry for people laughing. It's because Justin's just spat his beer out, literally. Is the current population represent approximately 7% of the number of people who have ever lived? Which again, I know you kind of think that the world has obviously been around for ages, but I'm just trying to think, is that impressive, or is that, as in sense of 7% is quite a lot if you think how old the Earth, how long the Earth's been here and people have been on it. But yeah, the current live population represents around 7% of all people who have ever lived.
To me, that seems really, I don't know. It seems like a small number to me.
It seems small, but if you think, I'm taking a little bit here, but round it up to the next 10%, which is 10%, and you think how many people must have lived, and we're saying all of those people are currently on the planet now. I think that is. I think for me, it's when I start overthinking these things. That's when these things
I think
start, destroying my brain cells.
that's one of those topics that I think the intent is to overthink it and just make you go numb. But I think that's interesting. But I want to know where the numbers come from. I think that's more of an interesting topic than the actual final result. Does it go into detail on the research that they did on this?
Do you know what? It probably did, but I didn't do that because obviously, why would I have got the most obvious thing and the answer to the question I knew you would have asked? Why would I have done that? Um, but I think it is, yeah, like as most of these things, there's all a bit of maths and algebra and what's the thing? Logarithms, algorithms are in that. I did see another stat which I wasn't going to bring, but I am now, ironically, is I think I did see that there's 4 people born every second and 2 people die every second. So I think if you were doing that, you can base that the population doubles. So that there's a little bit of a multiplication, carry the one over, that kind of thing going on there. But yeah, I just saw that and I thought, you know what, I'm going to throw it out there.
Huh.
Let the people overthink that.
I think that's an interesting. My mind's going numb just thinking about it because I'm in the process of overthinking it right now as you go over it.
I think that's that second can of beer you're drinking. But go on.
2. So, well, speaking of math and speaking of beer, I think this one ties in very nicely. Dan, did you know almost 163,000 pints of Guinness are wasted in facial hair each year?
I wondered where that was going. I was going to say, if that's drunk every hour, there, that seems fairly okay, fairly normal. But wow,
So, okay.
sorry, that's brilliant. How did you find this?
I went down a rabbit hole the other night.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's
I
brilliant.
think at one point I had a beer and I just typed in beer facts, and I think this came up. So, but it's estimated 162,719 pints of Irish Stout go to waste every year via mustaches, goatees, and surprisingly enough, chest hair.
Wow.
Uh,
Is
uh,
this what I was going to say? Did you find anything else out? Like, is this also contributed by like pints being thrown in people's faces and stuff like that?
so I don't think they measured that. So I think this study, this professional study, this very important study, is just measuring it based on the casual drinker at a bar. But it's estimated, again, 92,000 Guinness consumers every year in the UK have facial hair. So 92,000 in the UK have facial hair. Huh. That's another interesting fact. Assuming they consume an average of 180 pints each year, the total cost of wasted Guinness annually is about $536,000. $536,000. Interesting, Dan?
Yeah, interesting in the fact that it's totally bizarre and useless. As in, there are people being paid to work this out, and I want that job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No, and so sorry. So what I mean by that is like, some that people work out obviously the shuffling, and that's easy. That's basic math, and then you've got. Sorry, I should say that's basic maths because I'm in the UK. You've got the ones that are working out the percentage of humans alive today as opposed to all of time. And then you just come to me with the amount of pints wasted in facial hair. I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, but why you'd need it, I don't know. But I'd never heard it. And I have to say, for me, that's winning so far.
well, I found this a very important fact. I think everybody needs to be aware of how much beer and Guinness that we waste every year, and I think we should have almost a charity about it, right? I think we should have an initiative where you either shave and save, or you ask for an extra glass to just kind of rinse out your beard, so you can actually savor that wasted beer. I don't know. We should do a
So-
GoFundMe.
I thought you were going to say if you order a pint of Guinness and you got facial hair, they should give you a little shot glass of Guinness on the side to drink because
Yeah.
if you've wasted some, you're not getting your full pint.
It should be proper beer etiquette at this point. I mean, back in the day, you had, those little water finger bowls to wash your hands at the table.
Yeah,
What's so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
wrong about having a little dish to rinse out your facial hair? I'm sure it's more hygienic. Whether you drink it or not afterwards, I think you should.
Do you know what? I've got some Guinness in the fridge after this. So I'll have one to celebrate that fact.
I just had the worst visual of you dipping your chin into like your Guinness just now. Well, I wouldn't say it's the worst. I mean, you do you.
Yeah, I like that. If there was a board of where we were putting in, winners and losers of the facts, that's on my winners side. Yeah.
I think you should actually post to Instagram you trying this out after the show.
I think we should do one together. We've got a couple of weeks to get this ready. So I want a picture of you drinking a Guinness. All
You know
right?
what? That's not a bad idea. I mean, I think
Let's
we
do
should
it.
do
Let's
that.
do it.
Let's do it.
Let's
I'm
do it.
down.
Let's do it. Here we go. All the ants on Earth weigh the same as all the humans, which again, I found amazing. So there are approximately 10 quadrillion individual ants on Earth at any one time. And if you were to weigh them all, they would weigh the same as all the humans.
Really?
Apparently so.
I mean, even if you look at the volume, that one's kind of hard to believe. But I mean, if Google said it, I mean, it's got to be true.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember where I got that from, but I guess it's one of those things. I mean, if you think about it, there are 10 quadrillion of them. I guess I don't know when this was done. I mean, the average weight of humans fluctuates over decades, I guess. But I
Hmm.
just had this image of having a huge ant ball. I mean, how would you weigh them? Or have you got to weigh each one individually? So, there's an ant, weigh it. There's an ant, weigh it.
Again, I want to see these mathematicians that get paid like $200,000 to $500,000 a year to come up with these concepts that nobody's going to do anything with. But it does make me nervous on an ant uprise here in the future. That's kind of scary.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know how intelligent, resourceful, and strong they are. If they're now saying they weigh the same as us, going back to the who comes up with these, I mean, somebody it's just somebody in a lab just looking at something. I think they're looking around the room and they see an ant and say, right, what can we do with ants that we haven't done? Yeah, let's try to equate ant to humans. I think it's amazing. I think there's an episode there. I mean, I've just done one recently with Unusual Jobs with J&K, but the person who comes up with the random stats or facts, that's what I want to know.
These are the guys that really have a lot of time on their hands. So, I mean, it's like one of those where they send a proposal to a university and ask for money, and you know what? You're the only ones that applied for this grant. There you go. Count your damn ants.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's a lot of money will have been paid on it, but anyway, that's something else. Right, hit me.
Dan, did you know before toilet paper was invented, Americans used to use corn cobs?
That's no, I did not know. I'm going to say that I did not know that. That's
So
unusual.
it is unusual, and this is the one, and I'll go into a couple facts here in a second. But question for you: do you think the kernels were on when they went into
So
the outhouse?
when you said colonels, I thought you meant like military colonels. So
Well, I was going to call them what, niblets? I don't know. I almost went with niblets because I want you to say niblets.
niblets, but
There we
colonels,
go. I can die happy now. Thank you, Dan. So,
niblets.
this one I'm actually really skeptical of. So, way back in the day, if this was a use of toilet paper, sure. I mean, we probably have about 50 to 100 different uses next to the outhouse away from the house. You have leaves, even have the leaves of the corn that you can use. So, this one I call complete bullshit that this was the main intent of having this corn in the outhouse. So, this is my theory on the corn in the outhouse. Now, we'll take John and Mary, okay? We'll just say it. It probably wasn't them, but we'll say for the sake of the story here. We'll start with John. John goes to the outhouse and sees this long, rigid corn that's thin at the tip and then gets thick at the bottom. And he yells to Mary, Mary, what's this corn cob doing in here? Mary panics. Oh, shit, he found it.
Oh,
Shit,
Mary.
that's it. John, you wouldn't believe what I'm using this corn cob for. And that was the invention of not only the toilet paper corn cob, but also the invention of the first dildo.
Was that the lesser-known sequel to The Invention of Lying? Was that?
Yes. Now, I don't want to place blame on Mary. It could have been John too. So one of them's bullshitting the other one. But you cannot tell me that they look at their surroundings and see this long, rigid object, bring it into an outhouse away from the house, and say this was meant for toilet paper. Bullshit.
Yeah, the fact, not so much. The story you put behind it is going on my windboard. so, I find that highly unusual. Like you said, when you've got practically leaves, etc. I'm sure throughout history. So there's an excuse there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and they do go into detail here where they say when they bring the corn in, the niblets or the kernels, whatever, were not present going into that outhouse. So, of course, the corn wasn't on the cob, but I'm also curious when that corn came off the cob, whether that's inside the outhouse. Did they have a snack before the deed was done? I mean, there's a lot to the story.
Let's hope it wasn't after the deed was done.
And there's the origin of corn coming out in your crap. There you go, Dan. We got 3 stories in this toilet paper corn cob story.
Moving on swiftly. That's very different, Justin, very different. I've got one here. If you were standing at the North Pole, it would take 19 minutes to fall to the Earth's core.
I guess that makes sense. Well, yeah. I can see that with resistance. I don't know if there's any, I'm not a scientist or a mathematician. I don't know if there will be any like gravitational difference there, but I guess I can see that. I mean,
what I thought about that, again, why someone thought that. But secondly, imagine if fear initially, you'd probably be screaming. Then after about 2 minutes, you probably stop screaming, look at your watch. She's still falling. You probably sit back, you pull your phone out, you check the sport soccer results or something. Start screaming again, still falling.
I would check Tinder on the way down. I would see if there's anybody else around, or if Tinder can work on the center core. I would use that as my useless fact ender right there to see, you know what? I fell to the center, I fell to the earth, and I found a match on Tinder.
Oh dear, yeah. Well, that's it. Well, it's good to know you'd be thinking about dating while you were falling into the Earth's molten lava core.
I don't want to die alone on the way down. At least I can send one message.
Well, you'd be matching, and then you'd be gone. You're like, oh crap, I did find someone.
It's like no.
Yeah. What else you got?
So, well, on that. So, did you know? And this one totally by coincidence, by the way. Antarctica. Did you know, Dan, Antarctica did have its first Tinder match?
No.
It was done with one of them at a facility, and then the other one was in a helicopter 45 minutes away.
Well, I was going to say, first I was thinking, I was astounded by it. Then I was thinking, yeah, but there probably can't be that many around, right?
It's like one, and it wouldn't swipe. I might as well.
Yeah, imagine if that person doesn't. I don't know which way you swipe. I mean, I'm not saying you would, but I don't know which way you swipe. But imagine if the person doesn't swipe the right way for you. And it's like, oh, I'm the only one here.
You know what? I'm staying out here at that point. But that raises questions too. That must be the best cell coverage between those two. I mean,
yeah. What's the person in the helicopter? I mean, I'm assuming it's a pilot. What were they doing on Tinder? Shouldn't they be flying the plane, pilot in the helicopter? Sorry.
Well, that's multiple issues. One, airplane mode. Way to think of safety. Yes. Dating comes over safety in Antarctica. But you know what? If I'm hovering over Antarctica, that's the one place I will probably trust to have airplane mode on, because there is nothing that nearby.
And that person, they've obviously, looking at Tinder, they've spent many a lonely night. So they've probably been going to Tinder quite regularly through the day.
You just every 30 seconds, please, got one. I also want to know why Tinder. Obviously, they're in Antarctica for a reason. They obviously know nothing's going to come from that. And to me, a cell phone, I don't know what the energy situation is or the charging situation is there, but if I'm stranded out in the middle of nowhere, I'm not wasting my battery life on Tinder of finding an impossible date.
Oh, well, hold on. Maybe we've just done a public service. I reckon it's because they've not gone to pornographic sites because they think they've got malicious bugs. But we've now just said to them, well, fill your boots is what I was going to say. So, fill your boots with those sites because Justin's assured you you're not gonna get a virus.
I kind of want a follow-up story to this. I want to know if they
It's pretty
shared a
cool.
tent that night.
Yeah, it's
But
pretty cool. So was it intentional in the sense of was it just trying, or was it purely random? Because what I mean is, did they try to see in that part of the world could they get? I mean, did you say it was 45 miles away or 45
45-minute helicopter ride.
helicopter? Right, that's quite some distance, mind you. Cell phone. I'm just amazed where I live in a fairly new housing estate. If I'm not on Wi-Fi, I get barely any signal. So how this
Right?
person in Antarctica has got it, that's the mystery here. That's the amazing fact for me is they've got like a signal there.
If any of the two are listening, we don't care if you hooked up. We don't care any of that. We just want to know who your cell provider is. So if you can just comment on Dan's Twitter just to let us know, I mean, that's more impressive than the other thing.
Oh dear, right. I like that one. I think that's a nice one. I think that's a nice one. Yeah. I am gonna go. I've got two. Well, I've got four, but two are boring, so I've binned those. So I've got two more. Let's do this one. Apparently, the Milky Way smells of rum, raspberries, and booze.
All right.
So in 2009, astronomers exploring a giant cloud of gas and dust at the center of the Milky Way made a surprising discovery. The cloud was packed full of a chemical known as ethyl formate, which has a couple of intriguing properties. It is responsible for giving raspberries their flavor and has the smell of rum. Another nearby region is also notable as it's full of it's full of ethyl alcohol or ethanol, uh, the type that's used to make alcoholic beverage, and it contains enough alcohol to supply every person on the planet with 300,000 pints of beer per day for the next billion years. So now we
Where
know why this race for space is happening.
where is this place?
In the Milky Way, a part of the Milky Way.
Oh,
Sorry, I'll try and narrow it down a bit more, but I haven't got the zip
got my
code.
hopes up.
yeah, yeah, no, it's apparently it's a nearby region. Yeah, so it contains enough alcohol to supply every person on the planet with 300,000 pints of beer per day for the next billion years. Now, a lot of those will be wasted in people's facial hair.
Well, that's why we haven't found aliens. They're all hanging out there.
Yeah. However, if bottled at the source, the proof of the beer would be very low with an alcohol content of less than 1%.
Oh,
Um,
barf.
and also, it probably contains other nasty things in it. So, yeah, so you wouldn't want to drink it. However, it's nice to know that you could, potentially, if you got lost in space, you could get drunk. So,
It's like the universe is drinking Listerine.
yeah.
So it's like they're desperate enough to drink that stuff.
Yeah. But do you have any more?
I will go as long as you're going. So, Dan, did you know it takes 364 licks to get this to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
No. What's a Tootsie Pop? Is it just a lollipop?
That was my next question. If you've had a Tootsie Pop,
So
so
I'm going to look that up.
they're popular over here, especially with obviously kids. I still remember in school getting those as the most handed out candy ever.
Oh,
It's a
okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's a sucker
Oh,
with
has
a
it got
Tootsie Roll in
chocolate?
the center.
It's got what in the middle? Sorry.
A Tootsie Roll.
I thought
So you have
now I've got to look up a Tootsie Roll.
so like a chewable chocolate.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yep. Okay. So no, I didn't know of those. So sorry. How many licks to get to the center?
Can you say that again slower for me, please?
How many licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll?
There it
A
is.
pop? Tootsie Pop.
364. So if you're not familiar with
One a
this
day.
curiosity, here in the States, we had a commercial for Tootsie Pop, and it was an owl talking to a kid in the woods, with the question being asked, with the kid asking the question to the owl, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? And the owl goes 1, 2, and then just bites the damn thing. 3. So we've had this
Yeah.
mind-blowing question in the States of how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? And it's been answered by one of those useless researchers of 364 licks.
I probably could have done it for free for them. So it's
You would have licked 364 times for free? You're in the wrong profession.
this. What was I going to say? Oh no! I was going to say I'm really impatient. I kind of just punch down and go straight for
I'm
the
so
center.
sorry, Dan. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, but no. Okay, right. So, I mean,
And
those. Sorry, go on.
No, I mean, and that's most of us. Nobody's going to sit here being a man licking 364 times. We're going right for the center.
Yeah. I have to say, a Tootsie Roll does look quite odd
Yeah,
from the
they're
pictures I'm
delicious.
seeing.
They're delicious.
Is it actually chocolate?
Yeah, it's like a soft
Oh, it's
chew.
a chocolate flavored taffy. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the only thing I didn't see in the article if it's just one guy or if it's multiple studies. So I'm assuming it's multiple because it says 364 on average. So I mean, they probably had a long line of people willing to lick a Tootsie Roll Pop for probably about an hour, I would imagine.
I just love the fact that someone's looked at a Tootsie Roll, has looked at a lollipop, and thought, why don't we combine them? So apparently the jingle is, and this might bring back memories for you, whatever it is I think I see becomes a Tootsie Roll to me. I don't get that, but
Your homework after this, Dan, is to look at the commercial that jingle came from, and then the Owl Tootsie Roll commercial.
I will look that up tonight. I thought you said my homework was going to be to try beat the 364 legs. So maybe that's a challenge to the listeners out there. There you go.
Are you challenging everybody to do 364 licks or to lick the Tootsie Roll Pop? Because you need to be clear here, Dan, or you're going to have mass.
to beat the Tootsie Roll. No, the Tootsie Pop Lick Challenge. There we go.
You literally just had everybody tune off just now because you got everybody hyped up to lick 364 times with no
make it TikTok. Make it TikTok viral. Right. I'm going to do my last one and then happy for you to do one more. Look, I've broken my rule that I've stuck fairly rigidly to the last couple of months of keeping this under an hour. But how did I guess that with you? I'd have to break that. This is one. It was late. I was tired, so I didn't bother fact checking it. But when has that ever stopped us before, right? So apparently, the loudest animal in the world is 2 centimeters long. Yes, so it's the pistol shrimp is capable of snapping its claws shut so rapidly that it creates a bubble which collapses to produce a sonic blast louder than a Concorde sonic boom. The shockwave can reach 230 decibels, also louder than the sound of a gunshot. And the imploding bubble for a split second also generates temperatures of 4,400 centigrade Celsius, nearly as hot as the sun, killing its prey.
The description is terrifying, but I'm trying to visualize it. And you said it was 2 centimeters?
Apparently, yeah, 2 centimeters long, yeah.
That almost sounds like somebody trying to make an ant sound terrifying. Like, it's just by using the verbiage of like sonic boom, claws. I mean, I'm terrified, but then the size of it, it's just like, okay. I'm sure if it was in the environment of that shrimp or whatever, I'm sure it's terrifying.
It's like the pistol shrimp advertising board have said, look, we've got no advertising. What do we do? Well, for things our size, we're bloody lethal. So why don't we? Yeah, but yeah, I found that amazing because you'd think, oh, it's going to be something huge or it's it's a bird of some sort, but no, it's the pistol shrimp, 2 centimeters long pistol shrimp.
Sounds like it should be a superhero.
Yeah,
Those would be cool
Right.
powers too.
yeah. I was going to say finish us off, but no, I was going to say see us out with your final fact.
I got one more for you, and I think we're really in sync on this episode because when you say one, I have one that coincides perfectly with yours.
And I just want to say, we haven't discussed this beforehand, right? So we've just hoped
No.
that we haven't duplicated. And one, I think it's amazing that we haven't duplicated, but the sites that you went to find your facts, there was no chance I was ever going to find those. So,
Oh, no. I don't think a lot of people are going to find the sites I went to. But coinciding with your animal fact, here is another animal fact, and this one makes me feel like less of a man as well. And it also coincides with the 364 licks, by the way.
Okay.
Dan,
Yeah.
did you know the blue whale's tongue weighs just as much as an elephant?
Its tongue weighs just as
Its
much as an elephant.
tongue.
That's impressive. I mean, you think, yeah, they're huge, but you think of an elephant and they're pretty big, right? And heavy. So a blue whale has got an elephant in its mouth.
Well, it's weird when you put it that way, but yeah, you can put it that way.
Wow,
That's
that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
I think that's why you always see them smiling or their mate smiling.
Yeah, so-
Do you
I'm
think
trying to
Tootsie-
I'm trying to keep this scientific. And look at you. Go on. Sorry about the Tootsie Roll.
Well, you think the blue whale would be the actual perfect tester for this? Because even going back, and I won't spend a lot of time, but 364 licks seems a little low to me. I just think that, the blue whale, that would make more sense. I think the blue whale can lick that thing clean.
It wouldn't even make it through one. By the time you've got to the end of the tongue, it's right.
You just have one guy.
Probably taking half your arm off.
Ah.
So if it didn't have its tongue, would it just float to the surface? I mean, that feels like that's taking up a lot of its weight.
You would think, yeah. I mean, me, I don't know if you know this about me, Dan, but I'm terrified of whales. I think they're huge, they're intimidating, and you can't convince me that they're harmless. Those things look massive. And then when you actually put in perspective how big just their tongue is, I never want to go in the ocean. I know, like on our first show, we went into a lot of the wilderness stuff that would terrify me. The water is the ocean is one of those now too.
Yeah, I think you might have mentioned that actually. I think because I can't remember that. Or no, there was another episode. But yeah, well, they're there to help you. As far as I'm aware, aren't they? I know that's dolphins are friendly. Maybe.
See?
Maybe. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we've got us trying the Guinness thing. So maybe you need to overcome your fear of whales, and we'll get you swimming with whales.
The ocean's like almost what I think of like Australia in the wilderness, like everything, or the Amazon. Everything in the Amazon wants to kill you. I take one step in the ocean and something's going to kill me. Whether it's that jellyfish, whales, you know what? Probably even a salmon will probably injure me in some way.
I think we're going to we're going to discuss this in a future episode, right? Well, look, I'm going to have to call a halt to proceedings, Justin. It's been fantastic as always. Do you know, I'm going to be thinking about some of these facts for a long time. I'm going to leave that there. Do you want to shout out your show, any socials or anything you want to direct people to before we go?
So you can check out the Movie Wire anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show.
And if you're not already, please do press the subscribe button on Justin's show, as you can on mine. So Casting Views, you can get hold of me at castingviewspod@gmail.com. On Twitter, I'm at Casting Views. As per Justin's Movie Wire, you can hear this anywhere, but you're listening to it now, so you know that already. And yeah, if you want to be on the show, or you've got an idea for a topic that you'd love to throw at me and my guests, yeah, get in touch with me. So, Justin, thank you once again. I'll say
Always
goodbye
a
to you
pleasure.
now. And yeah, we'll see you very soon in the future because I've got a couple more episodes bubbling for you.
Love it.
Take it easy, everyone. I know there's a lot of podcasts from which you can choose, so I thank you for listening to Casting Views.
2, 3, 4. If I want your opinion, I will give it to you. Come on, take what we've got, 'cause you need it. Don't make us get a sports and force feed.